Jean Micourt says, or maybe Jean Micourt, or Jean Micourt, up to you. Is the CIA just the American KGB, just more covert in its evils? I'm so glad I got asked that question. Jean, I know I don't mean to put this on you because I used to ask questions like this myself. It's an assumption that the CIA is a spy agency, the KGB is a spy agency. What's the difference? It is exceedingly morally repulsive comparison. It can't be made. And the only reason you could ask the question, I don't mean to signal you out because it's just, this the entire point is that no one talks about this. The KGB, and before that the NKVD, before that the OGPU, before that the Cheka, and there was probably one or two in there between them, but the Soviet secret police, which the KGB does some spying, but basically they are the internal secret police, are the greatest mass murderers in the world. They were formed under Lenin, not under Stalin. They were formed under Lenin with Dzerzhinsky. Lenin had the first trial of these engineers. 14 people were executed. They were all innocent. Lenin knew it, and then Lenin unleashed this on his own people. They are murder squads, and they've never been anything other than murder squads, and the people they murder are their own people. That's all they do. The Soviet secret police, which, and it's not even the KGB anymore, it's the federal something or other. They are murderers. And I don't mean occasional murderers. I mean they are 900,000 people in the basement of their headquarters over the course of the years. 900,000 people executed 6 at a time by pistol shots in the back of the head in the Lubyanka building. The NKVD, which became the OGPU, became the NKPD, the Cheka, all of them, they were dispersed from the cities into the countryside. They took all of the grain that the peasants had, that the kulaks had, then they took all of their seed corn and they left them there to starve. And when they put up a fight, they put them into barns and churches and locked the doors, and they set them on fire. They murdered people by the millions by shooting them in the back of the head, and the ones that they didn't shoot, they deported to these work labor camps called the gulags, where 15%, 13% of the population would die every year. FSB, thanks, Foghorn. They just disappear. Millions and millions of people just disappear. And they shot their own relatives, they shot their own brothers, they shot their own sisters, they shot their own fathers, they shot their own predecessors, they were shot by their own successors. There's so much blood in Russian soil of Russian people who've been executed by other Russian people that it is simply not, it is a morally repulsive comparison. And furthermore, having done a little bit of work, promotional work for the CIA, I don't mean for a second to suggest that I'm doing anything interesting or cool, just a little bit of image work with them. The founding of the CIA was accomplished by men who in the predecessor of the CIA was the OSS, the Organization for State Security. And these OSS guys, unlike these Kremlin murderers, were there, and they saw the death camps at the end of Nazi Germany. And when the CIA was founded, the question that they asked themselves was, what do we do to make sure that we do not become the Gestapo? How do we make sure that we don't become the Gestapo? What do we do? And so there's oversight committees, there's congressional oversight committees, the president oversees these committees. There are civilian controls over the actions of the CIA that they're prophylactic. They stop this kind of mass murder. The CIA has done some killing overseas, there's no question about that, and the CIA has engineered some coups overseas, and my personal take on the ones I've seen where they were trying to restore freedom or stop communism, which is the philosophy of murder. But put all that aside, there's not to my knowledge has the CIA ever made an assassination of an American citizen on American soil or American citizen period that I'm aware of. Not one. And there were thousands every single week. Stalin signed 3,000 death certificates in one day. One list of 3,000 names on it. He signed 46 lists personally that had hundreds of people on them. he and Molotov and Voroshilov and the rest of the crowd of murderers, eventually Khrushchev and Beria, and they just did it. And that itself is horrible. But what's even worse were these NKVD troikas. You've got to understand, this country occupies, what is it? Is it 9 time zones, 12, something like that? The Soviet Union is it's half the planet. There's these remote villages in the middle of nowhere, and the KGB would come out from Moscow, and they would set up a troika, which would consist of some drunken lieutenant, some other drunken lieutenant, and a drunken political officer. And they would be given, this is why the Soviet system is so horrific, and it makes the Nazis look like pikers. The Nazis murdered Jews in cold blood, but they perceived the Jews to be the enemy. And well, there's no excusing that. Needless to say, it's about the worst thing that ever happened. It is genocide and extermination. It makes some kind of species of sense if you're one of these people that are this criminal, this insane, and this murderous. But the KGB under Stalin and even starting under Lenin, this is so important to understand this. Stalin would say, go to this town, whatever the town is, go to Rostov-on-Don, let's say, and execute 6,000 people. And he wouldn't say which 6,000 people. He didn't say, this guy's an enemy, this guy said something bad, this person I don't like, this person was mean to me, this person wrote it. No, he didn't. That wasn't how it worked. They said, you must kill 6,000 people in this city. And the terror was so great that the KGB, the NKVD and the Cheka or whatever, would go in there and they wouldn't kill 6,000 people. They'd kill 22,000 people, because if they only killed 6,000 people, there'd be some question about their support of the Soviet cause. They're in there. If there's 6,000 wreckers and traitors and saboteurs in Rostov-on-Don, and we're given orders to kill 6,000 of them, then we need to kill 22,000 of them to show people just how serious we are and enthusiastic we are for our work. Otherwise, they're going to kill us. And that's what happened. And it happened for decades. Decades, this went on. Decades. 3 drunken men in their 20s would say, charges against this person, sabotage of a phone switchboard because she had the flu and she arrived 15 minutes late for work and missed an important call. Verdict, death by firing squad, death by firing squad, death by firing squad. Done. Take her out. Shoot her. Next case. Let's go. We got 22,000 people we have to kill in the next week. So see, that's the thing. They had a death quota. And what Stalin was trying to do was he was trying to terrorize the population so much. And he basically said, I'm going to take the top 2% or 5% or the top 10% off the top. I don't know any names. I don't care about any names. If they have relatives overseas, we're going to shoot them. Not because they've committed crimes, not because they're planning to commit crimes, but they might commit crimes someday. They're more likely than this other person. And you just murdered by quota. What do you do? That's their society. That's Russia. That's what Russia is. It's the most horrible place in the history of the world. And the more you read about it, the deeper you get into it, the more you simply cannot understand it. The American mind cannot get around it. One deportation, I forget which one it was. It wasn't the Chechens, but it was the Magyars or something. Just one of these forced relocations in the Crimea before World War II, just one of them resulted in 22,000 dead children on the moving of this one group, one small group, just one group over the course of a few weeks in this much bigger picture of 30 or 40 years. 22,000 children killed just getting them out there, because they'd pack them up in the Crimea and they'd ship them to Siberia, and they didn't get any warm clothes, they didn't get a chance to take anything with them. Boom. So, there you go. There you go. That's what Russia is. And that's what collectives are. That's what collectivism is, and progressives are collectives. Progressives are collectivists. They like this kind of thing. To them, that's how they get to succeed, by having people taken out and shot. That's why they can use, in America, they can use the IRS against political enemies. I don't see anything wrong with it. They must be killed in order to bring us our workers' paradise of free health care and nobody having more stuff than anybody else. Doesn't matter how hard you work. Doesn't matter how much time you put into it. No one can have anything more than anybody else. And the people who are in favor of this theory are the people who want to take stuff from other people and give it to them. When they have to take their stuff and give it to other people, suddenly they're not that enthusiastic about the whole socialism thing. Anyway, that's that. So